It's Saturday, and I know I said I wouldn't probably be like doing any reading updates on the weekend, but I started reading If I'm Found last night. And when I say I started reading, I mean I read 326 pages out of 356. So I have 30 pages left in the book. So I wanted to quickly give a little bit of an update before, you know, I was completely finished the book. So this is the second one after If I Run. It's about a woman who is being framed for her friend's murder, and I really appreciate her creativity as she like finds different disguises and things to kind of stay under the radar and everything to keep from being found. I really have been flying through the books. Like, I read 326 pages in just a few hours yesterday. This one, the first book didn't have this, but this one so far has had 2 chapters that are written by like the bad guy's perspective. I'm not a huge fan of that because I don't like knowing their inner workings. I kind of like them to be a little bit more, you know, just unknown. So those 2 chapters are both really tiny, but I don't really appreciate those. But I am really enjoying the book, and I wish Book Outlet would have had book 3 available, because I totally would have bought that right away. So now I'll have to try to find it somewhere else, and maybe just get it from the library or something. So as soon as I'm done this, which I'll definitely get done this weekend, I have a stack of free verse novels from the library. I went through like a phase a few years ago where I read a bunch of free verse novels. These are all middle grade, young adult, and I really appreciate that they can cover like some really heavy topics. And I like the spacing of free verse novels, and yeah, there's just a lot about them that I like. So I think this was the one I was gonna pick up first. It's about a German university student who is speaking out about Hitler's regime. So that one I think was gonna be my first one, but then I have, so after this one's White Rose, I also have Unbound, The Poet X, Rainbow Goddess. Oh, it's Macy Macmillan and the Rainbow Goddess. I don't know anything about that one. All the Broken Pieces, Liberated, and A Slip of a Girl. I don't know if I'm going to read all of these from the library. I just kind of like went and requested a bunch of free verse novels I haven't read before, but I think this will be the next one. And then I will probably also choose something off of my TBR cart as well. So that's just kind of like what I plan on reading in the next few days. It's Wednesday already, so I haven't done a whole lot of reading updates so far this week. It's kind of been a crazy week, and I haven't actually done a ton of reading, but I'm going to share a little bit of what I have done. I went to the library on Monday, and I found If I Live, which is the last book in the If I Run series, and I just like blasted through this in less than 24 hours once again. So, I mean, like, the ending of the series was slightly predictable, but I feel like it was executed so much better than a lot of other Christian fiction. I really like this series and would recommend this one. I feel like there were so many things that were just so well thought out, and the characters were so well developed, and I really appreciated what Terry Blackstock did in the series. And then I had said I was going to try out some free verse novels. There's 3 of them that I started/read from the library. So I started White Rose because this one, I really like the cover, and it's about a German girl who kind of goes against the regime, I think. And I started it, and I got about like maybe 100 pages in, which when it's a free verse novel isn't very far because there's not a whole lot of writing in the page. And it wasn't as well done as I had hoped it would be, so I kind of DNF'd it. Didn't finish that one. Then one that I did read is A Slip of a Girl. This one is about, it's like historical nonfiction about, well, I mean, it's historical fiction is what I'm trying to say, about a girl who lived during the land wars in Ireland, and it's got a bunch of pictures that actually happened from back in, I think this is the 1800s, I want to say like 1880s. And the book, at the beginning, I was like, oh man, this sounds very similar to a free verse novel that I had hoped to write. I had an idea of a free verse novel based on someone I know, and there was a lot of little bits in here that reminded me so much of the actual historic events of the novel that I wanted to write. I don't know if I'll ever write it, because it turns out writing is a lot more work than just thinking about writing. But yeah, so I think I only give this one 3 stars. Like, I liked a lot about it, but I didn't feel like it was as well done as it could have been, I guess. And then one that I started is Unbound. This is about a slave girl who is going from living with her mom into working in the house, the big house, and I'm not very far, like page 44, which means nothing in a free verse novel. And I'm not sure if I'm going to finish this one. Once again, it's just kind of like meh. It's not one of my favorites, so we'll see if I actually continue with this one or not. Okay, so other than those books, I am still reading Keeper of the Lost Cities, book 2, which is Exile. I am 178 pages in, so like maybe a third of the way, and I'm enjoying it. It's not as, I'd say the first one was better, but I mean, it's a series, middle grade series, and yeah, I don't know. We'll see if I continue on with the rest of the books or just let my daughter read them or not. And then the audiobook that I was listening to was Wondersmith. I finished it. It's definitely a lot darker than Nevermore, but it was interesting. I did look it up. There is book 3 is coming out in like a week, I think. So I think it's called Hollowpox, if I'm correct. So maybe I will check that one out once it's out. So yeah, that's kind of like what I've been reading lately. I went to the library. I picked up a bunch of books from the library, so I might read like 1 or 2 of those yet before the beginning of February, because I'm really excited about my TBR for February, and I like really just want to get started. I want to read Scythe like ASAP, and Harry Potter book 6 and 7, and finish that series as soon as possible. So right now I feel like I'm kind of just puttering around, wasting time until I can start reading those. And if I'm being 100% honest, I might actually cheat and start one of them before the month, because why waste time reading books you're not really excited about if you have books that you are really excited about? That's my theory. But yeah, first of all, I do want to finish Keeper of the Lost Cities before I get into my February books, so I should be able to finish this in the next day or 2. To give my last little reading update for the week. Last night I did finish Keeper of the Lost Cities Exile. This is book 2 out of, I believe, 8 that are currently out. I'm still really enjoying this series. I'm excited to continue on, though I think I will be taking a break at least for most of February. So I'm just gonna kind of like pause the series here for a bit. And yeah, so if you have like a teenager that's like a preteen, young teen that likes fantasy books, I would highly recommend this series. I know my daughter is going to have a lot of fun reading it once she starts. And then because today is the last day of January, and I had a little bit of time yesterday evening, and then I have a little bit of time to read today, I couldn't start my February TBR yet, even though I'm really excited about all the books that are on there. But I couldn't like not have a book to read. So I went to my stack of library books that I have right now, and was kind of debating between Bridge of Clay and Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I don't really know much about Bridge of Clay, except that it is Brie from Call Me After Coffee's favorite book ever, and she keeps raving about it, so I do want to try it. But it sounds like it's kind of going to be an emotional book, and I'm just not in the mood for that right now. So I ended up starting, like barely starting, Skyward. I think I read like the introduction or whatever that is at the beginning, prologue, and then yeah, the prologue and chapter 1 last night. So I'm like barely started the book. So far, not a whole lot to say about it. It's a sci-fi book. This is Brandon Sanderson's sci-fi YA book. I didn't really know where to start with him. I hear a lot of good things about Mistborn, but I didn't know if I wanted to start with what sounds like is possibly one of the best series of his. Plus, I would like to buy his books, and I would like to find them used, and I haven't found any, so I thought I would just try this one from the library to start, and then yeah, we'll see how this goes. I will probably read it throughout the week next week as well as whatever I get done today, but I'm like mostly excited about what's coming up in my February TBR. And then one other thing, a couple days ago I went to a new bookstore close to me, and yeah, so I was excited to hear that there was a local bookstore really close to me, so I went to check it out, and it was just kind of like, it's really small and slightly awkward, and I was the only one in there other than the woman and her children who were sitting on the couch there. It's kind of just like this weird experience, so I felt like I had to buy something. So I bought The Forgetting. This is, I'm not sure if it's like a YA or if it's middle grade. It's a book about one day every 12 years. Everything that happens in this city is forgotten. So that's why it's called The Forgetting, except the main character, she never forgets what happens on that day. And yeah, I don't know, it sounded like an interesting concept. I looked it up on Goodreads after I brought it home, and it's only got like a 3-point-something star average, so I mean, I guess I don't have huge expectations, but I don't know, it's an interesting concept. After I got home and I was telling my husband about how like the bookstore was a little bit awkward, he had just been to a board game store that day, and he was also telling me how awkward it was because the people there, he was buying a game and there was a person helping him buy it, and then there was like 2 other people that kind of work there that were just standing around talking about the game that he was buying to each other, but not to him. And so we were just talking about how one day we would like to own a book and board game store, except that we would kind of have a failure of a business plan because we would kind of just want people to come and like read books and play the games, and we would never really sell anything. So I mean, it's a cool idea though. We would have like a gluten-free bakery little section and some dairy-free drinks because he's celiac and I have Crohn's and can't really handle dairy. So we have this whole idea planned out of this bookstore and game store, which we will probably never have, but it's kind of fun to dream. Yeah, so that was my reading week. Yeah, so tomorrow is Saturday, so I'll start a new reading vlog, and it's also February. So excited to get going on a couple of the books from my TBR for the month. I think I'm gonna kind of like alternate, start with either Scythe or the Harry Potter book, whichever one is book 6, and kind of alternate. I'm gonna read one of the books from the Scythe series and then one of the Harry Potter books to start my month off, because those are the ones I'm kind of most excited about. If you have any suggestions on what I should read next, or want to tell me what you've been currently reading, I would love it if you would leave me a comment below.